Hello everyone, I welcome you all to this presentation. We are going to discuss about a few courses that we conduct here, and then we will go through a tutorial of writing a few tips about how to write an essay for IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, SAT and various other exams. So first of all, let me just take you through the courses that we conduct. Here is my blog by the name sovidyaglobal.com. So you can go here and you can access video tutorials on various tests like IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, SAT. We also conduct sessions on GRE and GMAT. So you can go through this tutorial and uh, get very valuable content, as you can see towards right hand side. So this is a blog which I maintain where you get very valuable content and video tutorials in the form of essays, writing tips, reading tips for SAT, GRE, IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, and all these exams. We have got here, there is a list of participants who have done the course. Harshit from DPS Dwarka scored 35136 in his SAT exam. Vedant scored 1450 and in TOEFL in SAT and 111 in TOEFL. So you can go through the list and how these participants prepared for IELTS, TOEFL, GRE and SAT from all across India. The photographs and the experiences are given here, how they prepared, and there's a list of participants here. So you can just go through it. I'll come straight to the thing that we are going to cover today. So what we are going to cover today is a quick tutorial on essays. So whatever I'm going to discuss about essays in this tutorial would be available in the description section below. So you can go down, all this content would be available there. So you can refer to it and you can use it for your advantage. In case you want to revise, you can just go through it and that will help you reiterate and revise all the concepts. So as far as writing essays is concerned, in IELTS, TOEFL, SAT, um, in all these standardized tests, writing an essay is an invariable part, although the structure of essay is different. So we would confine our discussion to the essays of IELTS, TOEFL and PTE here. Writing an essay is a combination of art and science. There are a few things which depend on your creativity. So for example, what reasons you give and how you deal with the content. But there are a few things which are fixed and we can call it like a template. So we can use the word science for it because the process is fixed. You are supposed to write an introduction, a body, a conclusion. And when you write an essay, there are some fixed situations, like for example, you are supporting something or you are opposing something or you are giving an example or you're writing introduction or conclusion. So more or less the situations are fixed. So for all those scenarios, if you have some fixed vocabulary and structures, it becomes very easy to draft our thoughts. See, you have very limited time to write an essay, and in that limited time, if you go for total creativity, it becomes a very long affair. I mean, it is difficult to finish your first draft within the given time. So I'm going to tell you some shortcuts, some simple techniques by which you can write very good essays for IELTS, TOEFL, PTE, CELPIP, these kind of tests. And you can use these techniques to develop your own writing style. So to a great extent, writing an essay is like preparing a dish. So you've got all the ingredients already there. All you have to do is to mix them in the right proportion, in the proper sequence, and your dish is ready. Similarly, if you have got some fixed phrases and structures for your introduction, for your body, for your conclusion, all you have to do is you have to use them at the right time so that you end up writing your essay in the nice way. So there are a few suggestions here. Make a list of standard phrases. So I have compiled all these phrases in the form of an Excel file. As you can see, these are some 250 different phrases which you can use to draft your thoughts. And they are very simple ones: sooner or later, no longer exist, here to stay, Similarly, for different types of situations, all these phrases are there, and these are some very simple examples. You can just uh, see, in case you want to, you can pause the video and read a few of them. So I've written the phrase, where it should be used, what is its meaning, and a sentence on them, and what is its purpose. So all these things are given here. So this becomes like a ready reckoner to draft your thoughts in an easy and creative way. And all these phrases can be used to draft your essays. In general, to develop your vocabulary also, this Excel acts as a tutorial or a quick reference. So you can develop a set of your own phrases for the purpose of drafting your thoughts. And whenever you write an essay, you are supposed to first of all think of which structure you are going to follow, and accordingly you can use the appropriate draft. As it is commonly said, good artists copy and great artists steal, learn and improve. So basically, like a great artist, you can learn from the prepared essays and you can develop your own writing style. First of all, let us go through the evaluation criteria very quickly. There are 4 parameters on which your writing would be evaluated. The first is task completion, whether you have addressed all the parts of the question properly or not. Then cohesion and coherence, which means proper paragraphing and easy flow of ideas. When you write an essay, you should make sure that your writing is such that it is very easily understandable. So if somebody reads your essay, he or she should be able to relate to the various paragraphs and the content written there, and it should not be difficult to understand. It should be engaging enough, and it should be uh, written in such a way that the person should be able to relate to everything. So your examples should not be something which are out of the world. You should take some very easy to understand examples. The words that you use, the phrases that you use, and the flow should be such that people should be able to understand it quickly. So that is what we may mean by cohesion and coherence. One paragraph should talk about one thing, and the sequence of the essay should be such that it should make sense to the reader. The third parameter is grammar, range and accuracy, which means you are supposed to use correct grammatical structures, and you are supposed to show a reasonable range of flexibility in terms of your ability to use different grammatical structures. So some long sentences, some short sentences, a combination of different types of sentences where you add some variety and you showcase your ability to draft your thoughts and give proper words to your thoughts in an easy way. The fourth thing is vocabulary. You're not supposed to use heavy words, but you're definitely expected to use academic vocabulary, and if you can use some fresh words to depict your ideas, it helps you to make your essay stand apart. So somebody might have written very simple and day-to-day words, but then if you have used some flowery expressions or some new words which are not commonly used, they definitely make your essay stand apart, and we'll see some examples here. One very good acronym that you can remember to write your essay is prompt, plan, produce and proofread. So prompt means understanding the question very clearly. What exactly is the nature of the question? So when we are discussing the nature of the question, let me just give you a brief idea of what kind of questions could be there. There could be questions which ask you to discuss both sides of an argument. Let us take for an example, the topic is that some people believe that students should study in a single gender school, and other people say that students should study in a mixed school. So there should be only boys school, only girls school, or there should be mixed school. Discuss both these views and give your opinion. Now if the question says discuss both these views, which means you'll have to talk about the advantages of single gender school, the advantages of mixed school, and then give your opinion, right? But if the question says which option is better, so in that case you will have to stick to one aspect of the subject or one side of the opinion. So either you should support single gender or you should support a mixed school, in case the question is asking like that. So you are supposed to read the question very clearly, and we will see some examples where how sometimes we miss the question or miss some finer aspect of the question, which leads to answering the question incorrectly or writing an essay which is not related. This is very, very important that you read the question very properly, and that is what we term as prompt, which means understanding the question. We'll see some examples of this in a while. The second step is planning. Now, the word planning is a little confusing to people, because planning is not something which is very tangible. Planning is something which is a little intangible. You are supposed to think in advance of what you want to write. Writing an essay is easy. So if I give you a task, you would rather like to do it directly. But planning requires a little bit of deep thinking and putting your thoughts across. I mean, charting out a path for you. So some people, when they are asked to write, so basically when you're making a plan, you're actually supposed to write a rough draft as to what would you write in every paragraph, and what is your main argument, what is the theme of every paragraph that you want to write. And this is a very, very important step. We'll see how we do planning. The third step is to produce an essay, which means to write an essay. And the fourth step is to proofread, which means to check what you have written. So prompt, plan, produce, and proofread. These are the four steps. We have already discussed the types of essays earlier. I'll just quickly run through them, and as such you are going to see all these examples in a while. There are opinion essays wherein you're supposed to choose one side and defend it. So if there is an argument, like for example, let's take an example of, some people say that the best way to control pollution and traffic is to increase the cost of petrol. Do you agree or disagree? You know, so to improve the condition of pollution, or to decrease pollution and make easy solve the problem of transportation, some people say increase the cost of petrol, and that is told that is supposed to be the best solution. So now the question could be, do you agree or disagree that the best way to control pollution is to increase the cost of fuel? Or it could be like, discuss various ways in which pollution can be controlled. So there you are not supposed to like take one side, you are actually supposed to discuss various ways of controlling pollution and easing the transportation problem. So basically you are supposed to read the question very properly before you delve into answering it, and we'll go through this part in a while with the help of some examples. I think it would be easy to understand. The structure of an essay would always be in the form of an introduction, body, and conclusion. A question which is always asked is, how many paragraphs should you write in the body? So it is not fixed. It depends on the type of essay and your own writing style. So as such, if you write 2 to 3 paragraphs or 4 paragraphs, it is all absolutely fine. But then it depends on your own style. You should not write too short paragraphs. That would be the thumb rule about it. Your introduction should be very simple and clear. So it is, we will follow a structure called as state the obvious, state your opinion, and invite for further discussion, which is like deep dive, we call it. So in case you are writing an introduction, do not write more than 3 statements or 3 sentences there. The first sentence should be state the obvious, the second should be to state your opinion, and then third is invite for further discussion. Now when you draft your body paragraphs, you can use the structure of PEE, which is point, example, and explanation. So whenever you want to start a paragraph, start it with a point. Let's take an example. There are many advantages of uh, studying in a mixed school. Now, this is a point. There are many advantages, so I'm going to talk about advantages. So in case I'm starting a paragraph about mixed school, I'll say there are many advantages of studying in a mixed school. The biggest advantage is, so I'll talk about one big advantage, then the second advantage is, and I'll talk about the second advantage. So basically I'm first mentioning a point, then I'm giving examples and elaborating it. PEE means point, example, and elaboration. And then you can write an exception paragraph. An exception paragraph is where you entertain the other side of the argument. We'll see some examples, so I think that would be clear. So as of now, whenever you draft a body paragraph, it is good to start with a themed sentence, like there are many advantages, and then you enlist the advantages one by one. And at the end, there should be a clear and precise conclusion. Keep it short and simple so that the reader understands it quickly. See, there are so many people who would have written essay on the same topic. So in order to make your essay stand out, you have to be very precise and clear. There's one more thing which I want to emphasize here. It's about elements of style and elements of persuasion. So when you write an essay, you can focus on certain elements of style. Elements of style are those elements or those features of language which you can use to make your writing stand apart. One of them is vocabulary, then how you put your paragraphs, then asking questions, sometimes in a rhetorical way, or you can ask a question and answer it. We'll see some examples of this. Using combination of short and long sentences, using variety of grammatical structures, simile, metaphor, juxtaposition, alliteration. We'll see some examples of these. Basically, elements of style means using your language in an artistic way, where you use some new words and you do proper paragraphing to make sure your writing is easy to understand. And then there are elements of persuasion. Now, elements of persuasion means logic, numbers, appeal to emotion. So there are three things there, which are ethos, pathos, and logos. In order to convince the reader about your arguments, you can use either numbers, or you can take some historical examples, give some trends as examples, and you can use pathos, which is like appeal to emotion. Like, for example, for our future generations, it is for the sake of future generation, or for providing an easy life to future generations. It is our duty to save the environment. So this is an example of pathos, where we are appealing to people's emotions in order to convince them about our arguments. We'll see some examples of this in a while. Last point is using a corrections log. Now, this is very important. I always believe that it is not that you would commit many errors, but you will commit a small number of errors many times. I mean, most of the writers commit small number of errors many times and they end up losing marks. Now, if you maintain a corrections log in which you write down all the errors and the corrections, it becomes easy for you to overcome those shortcomings and write your essay in a very nice way. Let's come straight to some examples. So let me take this example. This is a very interesting topic. I would like you to read the topic first. So this is the topic. Nowadays, people get married and have children after the age of 30. So it's talking about the current trend of marrying late. and it is asking, is it a positive or a negative development? Give your opinions and examples based on your experience. Now this is the topic, and I'm going to copy this whole thing which we are discussing, as I said earlier, in the comments box, so you can always access it and you can use it for your own preparation. So the topic is about early marriage or late marriage, and let's say you are supposed to write an essay. So we'll follow the same structure of prompt, plan, produce, and proofread. So we'll first of all understand the question, then we'll write down our plan, then we'll write an essay, and then we will close it. So let us try to understand the topic, although I've already written the essay. But then let's just try to understand it quickly. Nowadays, people get married and have children after the age of 30. So basically the trend of marrying late and then bearing children still later, is it a good development or a bad development? Now see, the question is it a positive or a negative development? Which means you're supposed to take one side. Is it black or white? That's the tone of the question. Is it a positive or a negative development? Give your opinions and examples based on your own experience. So you're supposed to give your opinions and examples. So you have to, so this is very important. So if I have understood the prompt clearly, it is a yes or no type of question, and I have to tell whether marrying late, which is after 30, is a good development or not. So let us say, it could be anything. So you have to think about it. The advantages of marrying early are that the young couple are usually, they're below 30 years, so they are more accommodative, flexible. On the other hand, they have less experience, so that is the negative aspect of it. So, you can just write down the points which you want to consider in your essay, and based on which side you want to take, you can write. But then my request to you would be not to waste too much time. You can make a table and see on which side do you get more points. And when you write down your plan on a piece of paper, it becomes very easy for you to take the right decision as to which side you want to support. But then it's a very important decision, because once you have decided upon it, you have to write on that topic, and then you have to give your examples and opinions based on that. Let's quickly go through an essay on the same topic which I have drafted. Now let's see the introduction first. The trend of getting married and having children after the age of 30 years is gaining popularity in the modern times. However, the disadvantages outweigh the advantages of late marriage in my view. This essay will discuss the reasons to support early marriage. So now see, this is a very, very simple introduction which acts like a curtain raiser to tell what is there in our mind. It says the trend of getting married and having children after the age of 30, or marrying and having children after the age of 30 years, is gaining popularity in the modern times. So something is it's like a commentary on the modern trend, and it's very clearly stating, however, the disadvantages over the advantages of late marriage in my view. So he's qualifying it as his own view. This is not a universal truth, and as such this is an opinion essay, so it makes sense for you to project this as your opinion. That is why in my view is added here. So it's not something like a true or false or something which is like an eternal truth. It's just your side of, or your perspective about the topic. And this essay will discuss the reasons to support early marriage. Now if you look at the structure here, it says the most important reason to support early marriage is, so it starts with this. So this is the topic sentence. As we discussed earlier, you're supposed to draft your body sentences as PEE, which means point, examples, and elaborations. So first of all, there is this point. The most important reason to support early marriage is that young couples are more flexible. It should be young couples. So young couples are more flexible, or young people are more flexible and accommodating. They accept each other's differences without too much hindrance. So it's talking about their nature, their behavior. Generally, they are more accommodative. Even if they fight, so there is no need of comma here, even if they fight, they are able to find a common ground and live amicably with each other. But with the passage of time, we can remove this comma here as well. Although with discourse markers, usually we use a comma. So let me just have it there. But is a discourse marker. It tells that we are taking a U-turn and we are talking about the different aspect. But with the passage of time, a person's views become more fixed or simply fixed. Or we can say person's views get fixed. Thus, it becomes difficult to see others' point of view, and conflicts and differences lead to fights and divorces in extreme cases. So, as people become older, it's talking about how they start thinking in a very fixed way, which leads to an inflexible behavior. In other words, now this is a good way of summarizing the whole thing or paraphrasing the whole thing. For a blissful marital experience, early marriage is a better choice than late one. Okay, so from the perspective of, so this first paragraph was to talk about the advantages of early marriage and tell about how it is good for couples, like when they are below the age of 30 years, they are able to accommodate differences easily. Then it talks about how it is good for children. From the perspective of happy parenting as well, early marriage is the way to go. So, this is like a little idiomatic English, is the way to go, or is something which is advisable. Young parents in the prime of their life are more suitable to raise children, as the children find it easier, put a comma here, as the children find it easier to relate with young parents. So, because of less age difference. To quote an example, so first of all, we have made a point. Now there is an example. I see many young couples in my society playing badminton or swimming with their children, enjoying their free time. Since this is a qualifier, I'll put a comma again. It's a modifier there. Enjoying their free time. Further, children also, now this is again a discourse marker to extend the point. Further, children also feel easy to ask questions and find answers to their personal problems. On the contrary, if the parents are old, the age difference, now this is a phrase of if, so I'll put a comma here, the age difference acts as a hindrance to communication. In nutshell, young parents are a blessing in disguise for the children as well. For the children also, I can write also here. So basically the first paragraph was devoted to parents, like how is it good for the couples, not parents, but the couples to marry early. And the second paragraph talks about how is it good for children. So if you look at the whole essay, we have not discussed many points. We've just discussed 2 points, that how is it good for the couples. Early marriage is good for the couples and early marriage is good for the children. And we are now coming to the conclusion. So 2 paragraphs in the body and then there is a conclusion. To conclude, given that early marriage is advantageous for couples as well as their progeny, I advocate, so progeny is like for their children, I advocate getting married before the age of 30 years, then after 30 years. If you look at the conclusion, it is just one statement, and in one statement the whole thing is summed up. So this is an example of a very nicely drafted essay, which is very cohesive and where there is a clear introduction, then 2 paragraphs in the body, and a clear and precise conclusion, which is more or less a paraphrase of the introduction itself, where we are reiterating our view about marrying early or getting married late. I can see a combination of long and short sentences. One paragraph talks about one thing at a time, and I see a range of words used here. So this qualifies for a very high score essay, a high scoring essay there. So I would suggest you to use these structures in your own writing. See, there's one beautiful way of developing your own writing style, which is by referring to some pre-written essays and taking out the phrases from this. So if you look at this, what I've done is I've taken out some good phrases from this. Is gaining popularity. So whenever you want to talk about a trend, you can say something is gaining popularity. For example, the trend of consuming organic food is on the rise, or the trend of consuming organic food is gaining popularity in the modern times. The trend of homeschooling is gaining popularity in the modern times. The trend of using mobile phones is gaining popularity or is on the rise in the modern times. Now, if you write these kind of phrases and sentences, it becomes very easy for you to draft your thoughts in an easy way. The trend of using mobiles had witnessed an exponential growth in the past decade. Growth in the past decade. The trend of going to a gym is gaining popularity in urban. So, the trend of doing something has gained popularity, becomes something, a fixed structure to talk about a trend. Similarly, this phrase, disadvantages outweigh the advantages. Now, if you look at this, here we say many people advocate using social media. However, I think that the disadvantages of using it outweigh the disadvantages. So we can use this structure whenever we are comparing the advantages and disadvantages. Now, see, from one essay, we can pick up lots of phrases and we can draft our own thoughts on that. So this becomes kind of a roadmap to develop your writing skills, to develop your vocabulary, and certain structures which you can use in different situations. Many people advocate discussing politics in the office. I think the disadvantages of doing it outweigh the advantages. Now, this is again a phrase which can be used to discuss these kind of topics. Can cause detrimental consequences. So something can cause detrimental consequences or can have detrimental consequences. Consuming alcohol may have detrimental effect on health. So these are the phrases which I used in the essay or which we discussed during the class here, and I've just written a few sentences on each of them. And this is what is the compilation of this is what is there in this Excel file. This is a compilation of all the different phrases which come in, like whatever 100 essays that I analyzed. So I took all those phrases out and I made some sentences. So as a separate practice, you can use this Excel to develop your own writing skills, and learning phrases can be a great way to develop your own style. So like this, we can do a little reverse engineering of the passage. For each paragraph, what I've done is whatever, like for example, in this paragraph, this phrase is something which I found to be interesting. The most important reason to support early marriage is, so this was the first line. So whenever you are writing an essay, the topic sentence should be about the theme. The first sentence should be the topic sentence which talks about the theme of that particular paragraph. So if you look at this, it says the most important reason to support early marriage is that, and then it gives how it is good for couples. So I wrote a few sentences here. The most important reason to support a healthy lifestyle is that it improves mental and physical health. The most important reason to support a healthy lifestyle is that it is like a boon for mental and physical health. So you can say it is like a boon, or it acts as a boon for mental and physical health. The most important reason to support a healthy lifestyle is that it promotes physical and mental health. The reason is that participating in varied activities keeps our body healthy and fit. Further, it also makes our mind agile. So like this we can frame our thoughts, and if we read it, you would start remembering these phrases, and it will become a part of your general conversation. It would become more colloquial than special, and you would be able to use your essay. See, the purpose should be you should do so much practice that within half an hour you end up writing a very good first draft, which helps you to score 7 or 8 bands, because that's what the expectation is. You do not get a long time. For example, in IELTS you get 40 minutes to write an essay. In PTE it is like 20 minutes. In TOEFL it is half an hour. So you roughly get 20 to 40 minutes to draft your thoughts. So it is very important that you go prepared with some phrases which you can quickly use to draft your thoughts. Healthy lifestyle also enhances immunity. So even if one catches some diseases, one overcomes them faster. So even if, how can you use even if? With the passage of time, so certain sentences with the passage of time. How to use therefore or hence as a connector. What is the use of in other words? So these phrases come very handy to draft your thoughts. What I suggest you to do is, using the same phrases, you can draft a few of your own sentences so you get enough practice. You can always use net for this purpose. It is full of these phrases and sentences on them, so in case you want to copy a few phrases from there, and you can make a list of them which you want to use, that would be helpful. Or you can use the Excel as I suggested. Now the third paragraph and the phrases from, so this is what I'm suggesting here. Instead of, so the best way to develop your own writing style and writing skills is to take some standard essays, do a little, understand the topic very clearly. Like for example, here it was about late marriage or early marriage. Take a sample essay, understand which phrases are used in it, and make some sentences using the same phrases, and then draft the same essay and get it checked by an expert who would be able to tell you whether you have drafted it properly, whether you have written it correctly or not. So that gives you a lot of confidence about writing the essays. It also helps you develop the skill in an easy way, instead of you writing an essay all on your own, using your own knowledge first and then getting your errors corrected. I think it is more advisable to use certain samples to draft your thoughts. We'll take one quick example before we wind up. So this is one more topic which is a little tricky. When I read it for the first time, I actually did not interpret it correctly, but then when I was revising it, I got to see some nuances of the topic. So the topic says, should long-term job seekers in receipt of government benefits be made to do voluntary work so that they give something back to the community? Let me read it once again. Should long-term job seekers in receipt of government benefits be made to do voluntary work so that they give something back to the community? So it's talking about long-term job seekers. So long-term job seekers are like, now this phrase is interesting. Long-term talks about long-term, and job seekers are the ones who are seeking jobs. So long-term job seekers means the ones who are seeking job for a very long time, who are not able to get a job. In receipt of government benefits. Now government benefits are all the benefits like unemployment allowance, or government provides various benefits to them in terms of infrastructure, road, education, food, whatever, on a subsidized rate. So they are not contributing anything to the economy, but they are receiving a lot of things. The question is, should they be made to do voluntary work? Okay, so these people who are not employed but who are taking all the advantages from the government, should they be made to do voluntary? Now this is something which I missed actually. Made to do voluntary work. Made to do is something which means they are forced to do. Should it be mandatory for them made to do voluntary work? Is it necessary that they should be made to do voluntary work? This is something important, which means government should mandate it, should stipulated, should make a law to make it compulsory for them to be working as a voluntary worker in some kind of service, so that they give something back to the community. So this is the question. Should we make it compulsory for it? And here there is a complete essay on it. Like, so when I read it for the first time, I actually missed this part, that should be made compulsory for them, should they be made to work? And then when I reread it, I understood this is the essence of the topic, and I wrote the essay. I made those corrections there, and I accordingly made some changes in the essay. So we have to maintain the tone. If I'll just take you straight to, you can read it, it is there in the comments, but as of now I'll just take you to the conclusion. To conclude, given that voluntary work gives a platform to retain skills and serve the society, long-term job seekers must engage themselves in meaningful work which helps them as well as others to lead a happy and fulfilling life. So long-term job seekers must engage. It is not should engage, must engage. Now must engage means somebody is forcing them, and this must is very important here because that matches the tone of the question, which says should they be made to work voluntary work. And here that is why we are saying they must engage themselves in meaningful work, or must engage. In fact, themselves can also be taken off, because must engage in meaningful work, which means somebody is forcing them to do it, which helps them as well as others to lead a happy and fulfilling life. So we have given two arguments here. One, that it helps them to retain their skills, and two, that it promotes harmony within the society, because if they work, then nobody in the society can raise a finger and tell that they are just getting benefits without doing anything or without giving anything in return. So you can read the essay and see what it is. And for this essay also, what I've done is I've taken out all the phrases, and then we can make sentences on each of the phrases to develop our own vocabulary and structures. So this is one very good way of developing your writing skills. Instead of writing an essay, you can take some samples as given here and draft your own, develop your writing skill by going through the phrases and the structures used in the essay. First of all, understanding the question, understanding every word from the question, like we saw. Should they be made to do voluntary work, which means it should it be made mandatory? It's not their choice. It's not that they want it or they don't want it. It's like government would force it on them. So the whole structure of the question changes when we look at the question from a different perspective. And this is why we call that understanding the question is very important. I'll just write it once again because this is so very important. Prompt, plan, produce, proofread. Proofread means checking your own essay. Prompt is understanding the question. Plan is to plan your writing. Produce is to write your essay, and proofread. You should do prompt and plan maybe in 5 minutes time, then 30 minutes to write the essay, which is like 35 minutes overall, and then 5 minutes to check your essay. So 5, 30 and 5 makes it total 40 minutes. Prompt and plan in 5 minutes, write your essay in 30 minutes, and then check your essay in 5 minutes. Although 5 minutes is too much to just check your essay. It takes not more than 2 to 3 minutes, but then sometimes you have to make some changes. You want to change a sentence or structure, so it is better to play safe and give 5 minutes for checking. I hope this tutorial was useful to you. In case you want to ask any questions, you are most welcome to reach me on my number. You can call me at the number given below in the comments. It is +91 9871 001015, or you can write an email to me at rajeevgondal gmail.com. I would be very happy to help you in every possible way. Thank you so much.